On today's Kirkwood and Dunn, we are talking about the Indy 500 as Tim had his first experience, and it sounds like he is going to go back. We talk about Cignetti driving the pace car, a few college football news and notes. We also have Kris Drew, an Ohio State fan that we have on the podcast. I know, shocking to all of you, but it was a great interview. Stick around for that. When we come back from the interview, we do a deep dive into higher education and a little bit of how it's impacting the NCAA landscape and how it affects college sports. Go vote for the best of summer draft on our X account or Instagram. Tim is advocating for votes. He's trying to get a win for the first time. Go check that out. Let's get to the podcast. Let's go.
Powered by Riverside.
Tim, you're playing a road game right now.
Yeah.
In the process of moving. Don't they say like moving is one of the most stressful things that happens in one's life? And you do it probably every 3 years. Is that kind of how that goes?
Yeah. I am an expert at moving. I think I've moved.
Yeah.
I did the math. It was like 18 out of 20 years.
My goodness.
And sometimes it was like a local-ish move, like one apartment to another, like a building over or something. But like, yeah, it is pretty insane. So kind of scope it out new places, going through it. It's going to be kind of a summer of change, I think, a little bit. But yeah, road game for me.
Tim, your backdrop's going to change as much as mine did over the course of the Kirkwood and Dunn era. You'll eventually get comfortable with it and have that.
Yeah.
No, but should we do a moving draft at some point? Like tips for
Oh, man. Yes, that would be.
moving? Yeah.
That. Let's get the U-Haul sponsorship group on the phone. I've never seen a U-Haul sponsored ad anywhere. They need to get in on the Kirkwood and Dunn draft of how to execute a good move. Man, what a great episode that would be.
Yeah, I'll pitch it right before August, like move-in time for college kids
moving
and stuff
day.
like that.
Moving day
Yeah.
tips. IUB moving day tips would be also excellent.
Yeah, that would be good. Well, hey, go vote. Go vote. Tim is
Yes.
going to lobby here for best of summer draft, voting on X at Kirkwood and Dunn or on Instagram. Those two votes count. People have been commenting about the summer draft. Love your reactions to that. But the reason why we did draft him is because you were at the Indy 500.
Woo! America!
Are you a convert to the Indy 500?
I legitimately am. I really am. And I have been talking with some folks and seeing the chatter online, diving into a few IndyCar podcasts a little bit.
Oh, really? Like a real convert?
Hold on. Let's pump the brakes. I'm like catching some podcast clips, maybe listening to like a 10-minute segment. So we'll get into it. But this is my very first Indy 500. And I do recognize that all the sentiment out there is like the race that happened on Sunday is like one of the best races of all time. And every other person I was sort of with and kind of working with also too was like from a like event operations standpoint, also like one of the smoothest experiences they've had. And so like I got really lucky probably with that experience because there was 350,000 people there. But it was an incredible scene. I mean, the back home again in Indiana to start with IU's own Jim Cornelison, unfortunately backed up by the Purdue marching band.
Boo.
Don't need to get into that here today. But just an incredible experience. The event goes really well. The race goes pretty fast, actually. Like I always thought of it at home watching it. It would be like, this is long. I take a nap in the middle. But it's super exciting. And I'm just going to say it. It's just fucking cool to watch cars go 230 miles an hour right in front of your face. So it was really, really exciting. I had a great view down the final stretch after turn 4. Watched that guy make a last second pass, like literally right in front of me. It was really cool. Really, really cool. I will be going back again.
Epic ending, obviously, like that move. Like I turned it on the last yellow caution. Like, so like really late, like it's the first time I
literally
turned it
the
on.
end.
Yeah. You texted me and was like, hey, you should like come next year. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm just not like, it's not I'm glad people really like IndyCar. It's awesome. Good for them. And I'm glad you're a convert. But that ending was awesome. I'll admit.
Yeah.
I was like, I got chills watching that ending. It was crazy. And honestly, it's what, like, obviously the little 500, something we cover here on Kirkwood and Dunn, something
Mhm.
I've been involved with. Like, it's based on that. And those endings in the little 500 are exciting when it's that close at the end. So I'm glad it didn't end on a yellow like the little 500 did.
Right.
You were very close to ending on a
Very
yellow.
close.
Very
Very
close.
close.
But you didn't. You didn't. That's the moral of the story, right?
Yeah. It is. And it's also the creme de la creme of people watching. I mean,
Yeah.
you are getting the widest swath of America there all in one. So it is that alone makes for a great experience. Then to see a
Mhm.
bunch of cool cars flying around, also fantastic.
And from the sounds of it, you didn't text me because you and I were talking about it, but like you said, it was really smooth getting in. Was getting out fine?
Getting out was good, although we intentionally we were very worried about rain all day. Luckily, it held off for the most part, but it was also very clear that from like 4:30 to 5:30, it was definitely going to be like solidly raining. So the race ended 3:30, 3:45-ish or whatever. So we just stuck around inside the track. We're like, let's let a whole group of people go, whatever else. So we hung out like inside the track for another hour, hour and a half or so. You get to see all the
Oh wow.
interviews. He does like a literal victory lap and
Yep.
stuff. Because it's Indy 500, you can bring in all the beer and sandwiches, like whatever. You have your own cooler. So we're just like, yeah, let's just chill out for a little bit longer. So we stuck around. We got back to the parking lot where we were at like 6, and then it was a half hour. We were home. Like it was
Okay.
normal. It was basically normalish traffic leaving out then. Now that's because we stuck around for 2 hours, but it was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather do that than sit 2 hours and stop and
Yeah.
go traffic. So as long as you go into it, I think knowing like, hey, this is a 12-hour day. We get up pretty early, but you get in, you get settled, you tailgate, you bring all of your stuff into the race, whatever, you relax, you try to wind down, then it's a smooth experience overall.
Yeah. It sounded like it. A star of the show, Curt Cignetti. I know you
Woo!
were at home. You
Curt.
didn't get to see all the interviews live and all that stuff, but man, that guy was at a moment, a center of attention on the broadcast, getting and then tweeting, no rear view mirrors.
No
Like,
rearview mirror, man. That's the
yeah,
new
disable the
hashtag
rear
this
view
year.
mirror. Like, disable the rear view mirror. Man, I'm not gonna be able to say
No,
that. So you
yep.
got to carry as it's, my speech impediment comes out on that
The
one.
rear view mirror
But
was disabled.
yeah. Like he just he's tweeting it. Brian Haynes is following up and tweeting about it. Yeah, I love having a cultural icon
It's
as our
great.
head football coach. It's
It's
great.
the best thing in the world that our head football coach is just a star in a good way. He's not a star because he's like a pretty young hot boy type thing.
Yeah.
He's not a star because he like loves to be a fashion icon and like, do some no. He's a star because he has aura. He has swag. He has confidence. He just walks into the room and is like, I'm here to fucking chew bubble gum and win football games, and I'm all out of bubble gum. Back to chewing, back to winning football games. Like, it's the best that he's there. There's plenty of Hoosiers chants in the stands.
Nice.
It was fantastic to see that. I was yelling out. I gave Curt a big wave from the grandstand. Not sure if he saw me. But it was awesome to see him cemented there. There was IU IndyCar swag, sort of like crossover stuff, which was really cool. They had a
Yeah.
Back Home Again in Indiana, which then bled into the Indiana fight song kind of t-shirt stuff. So it was like, this is awesome. I'm glad that like they've leaned into it. They had like an IndyCar for recruiting visits and stuff. It was it's a great sort of like co-branding thing for IU football.
Yeah, it's something that I criticize just because the popularity of the Indy 500 3 years ago was at probably an all-time low, with F1
Yeah.
being as popular as it has. But with 2 straight sellouts, is it back? That's the question.
I think it's back. It is back. That it is trending upwards, I think, for it. And I think it's probably because they really rounded out the experience. They've got great video boards all throughout the entire area. again, they let you bring in all the food and beer you want, so that's great. But they also have great stuff there. The merch is good. Like, it is a lot. You do have to plan to get in. You got to kind of know where you're going, where you're going to park or whatever else. But if you've got a group of friends to go, like, it is just a great time. So I think IndyCar is absolutely on the upswing.
All right, some news that has come out early this week, even today, the day we're recording, is the day we're releasing. So we're recording on Wednesday. There's been a lot of stuff that's come out, and stuff is conversations we'll save for later in terms of like the SEC and ACC propaganda conventions that they're doing, the spring meetings. But really, there's been a lot of discussion around game time releases and TV contracts, and Hunter Yurachek, who's Arkansas's AD, is like seeing out press releases that being a baby about their time and just absolutely we only have 6 days to prepare for this. Like all this stuff that Arkansas and SEC fans tend to do. But Indiana gets theirs released. Big one. There's 2 big, I think. Obviously, we knew the Northwestern time. But noon, Big Noon Kickoff is coming for the North Texas game.
Yes.
So national championship, starting the season. We're the first ones. I like to think of it like when you win the Super Bowl. I know, Tim, you're a Bears fan. You've never won the Super Bowl, but as a Chiefs fan, when you win
the Super Bowl in '85. Let us tell you about the greatest defense of all time. They didn't do this back
in '85, but they would bring in the first kickoff, the Thursday night game, is what they do. If the Big Ten keeps winning the championship, honestly, Big Noon Kickoff first week of the season might always be the national champion on there. And Indiana's going to be showcased against Taven Jackson and the North Texas Mean Green. Then Rutger is a night game. Primetime night game.
Is North Texas Mean Green? Wait, what's Tulane? Hold on.
No.
This is bad podcasting right now.
Well, that's North Texas isn't.
North Texas is Mean Green. Yep.
Tulane is Green Wave.
Green Wave, okay.
Texas is the Mean Green.
I did the thing there where I was like, "Oh, I'm going to call Trent out and call him a non."
You were so excited,
and then I was like, "Wait a second!" And then I already went halfway, and I was like, "No, wait, Tulane is something different, but it's similar. It's Green Wave, yeah."
Their Mean Green and Green Wave is the Mean Green, and their mascot is Scrappy the Eagle. Yeah, cool stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways,
Scrappy the Eagle's going to get his ass kicked in a few months. That's what I know.
Hoosier the Bison.
Yeah.
Gotta get a fight. And you promised Abby that you would taunt the opposing mascot.
Opposing mascot, yep. That is my pledge as a fan, is to talk shit.
Reaction to our kickoff times that got released, I think 5 weeks were released.
Yeah, we had the first couple weeks come out. I mean, it's awesome that we're getting Big Noon to celebrate the national championship, kick off the season ultimately. So that's great. Love to see that respect, come through. That because it's not a sexy opponent. There's other places they could have maybe kind of gone. Big Ten doesn't do a ton in week 1 in terms of scheduling, but that's fantastic. I mean, there's a Peacock game in there that's going to be around for a while, folks. Like,
But I want to clarify, because this was confusing, because last year when it said Peacock game, it was only Peacock. Now Peacock games means NBCSN and Peacock. It is on TV. It's just on their old now. They brought back NBC Sports Network.
Yeah, it's on some cable channel to go find. That doesn't usually host IU football games, but now we do because of our partners. I think it's interesting ultimately that the 5th game of that was the Rutgers game that is also going to be a night game, which to me says not usually, but oftentimes they try to throw one night game in for some teams. But now we're hey, Rutgers, we'll do it, but it's going to be for Indiana because we need to get eyeballs and we need to have it on because that's the national championship coming through. So with the Rutgers game also being at night, I think is just kind of funny more than anything else. But these are I think kind of as expected, Big Noon, and I think as we've talked even on other episodes, the Big Ten's tie-in with Fox is ultimately going to mean noon kickoffs more often than not. And so getting a few night games in, I think, is interesting, but I think we'll often see them as these like Northwesterns and Rutgers and just sort of one-offs that they're trying to isolate in terms of a TV time slot.
Well, I think what's interesting about the Rucker game is that it is at 8 p.m., but they don't list TV channel. There's no like everyone else has Fox, Peacock. Yeah, they don't list one. So, and to be honest with you, the 8 p.m. time slot
might be Big Ten Network.
Could be Big Ten Network. It could be NBC's late night game. I don't know what Notre Dame's playing in that one, but my guess is there's a couple of 8 p.m. games, and they're going to flex it depending on what happens to lead up to that game. Is my assumption. So, but regardless, if you're going to Piscataway, God bless you.
Yeah,
and then you know that it's going to be an 8 o'clock game against Rutger. So, and hey, by the way, like I remember watching Iowa Rutger this past season in Wetjet, as I like to call him, whatever his last name was.
Wetjet.
He ran all over. And like that was a crazy game. So Piscataway Magic could just take over, and it just could be a funky and a weird game. So let's take care of business, as obviously the first 5 games for Indiana expected to win every game. It's later in the season where things get a little bit tougher. It's later in the season where College Football by Sam releases his power rankings and put Oregon at number 1 and Indiana number 2. Tim, you were upset about that on Twitter.
I just saw it. He just released it as we were getting on ready to record. Sam, buddy, what are we doing here? You know better. You went to the spring game. You watched the portal editions. You go on raving about how the Cignetti coaching tree and coaching staff is the best in the country. And why? Because DeCorian Moore is back and Dante Moore is back? What are we doing, Sam? Yeah. Come on, be smarter. You could just be smarter. That Indiana should be 1. Oregon can be 2 if you want, but come on. Let's be smart here. That was disappointing.
I think Sam needs to have you on to talk about it. I mean, you're very upset, so it's just a good time for discussion with college football with Sam. No, Sam's a good friend of ours, a friend of the pod, and also does a great job. And I'm not too upset about Sam picking Oregon at 1 and us at number 2. He does give Indiana a healthy amount of respect.
He is in terms of like people that aren't directly affiliated with IU, right? I.e., we are biased, of course, but he does give IU more respect than other types of national media outlets. But like, Sam, you don't need to put Oregon there. Let Reese Davis put Oregon in his number 1. Let Greg McElroy do that. Like recognized game, Sam. Like, you know what's up. Put us number 1. We should be number 1.
Tim, did you see the graphic that the Kirkwood and Dunn Analytics Department released last Friday?
No. Wait.
For those who haven't seen it, about the percentage of players that are on the roster that were alive the last time Indiana that a team won a national championship.
Man, the Analytics Department is really cooking up some things with their AI tools. Got to see what they.
Oh, well, first of all, offense. No AI was used for that, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe it should have.
I want to be very clear. Wasn't that hard to do, because the only team that was a little bit unsure of it was Texas, because it's definitely bifurcated between 2 eras of football. Like, there's like of the top 10, there's people who haven't won. I guess that's 3 eras. 2 people that haven't won, and then people that won a long time ago, and people that won very recently. That is one thing that is very clear. But for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to Instagram, you can go to Twitter, you can go to TikTok, you can go to all these places and see the Kirkwood and Dunn Twitter or Instagram post. But I want to point this out. Tim, this is our most followed or most interactive post of all time.
Are you shitting me right
now? No.
What is I was about to have some beef with the analytics department, because I was basically like, who asked for this? Who asked for the players by age of their current team, were they alive for that team's previous national time? Who asked for that type of roster breakdown and assessment? And yet I should shut my mouth because the analytics department knows what it's doing in terms of content generation. Unbelievable.
It is.
People are fascinated by birthdays, I guess. That's what this is.
No, this isn't why this is the case. I'm going to share my screen for those watching on YouTube or Spotify. You should check this out to see what we're talking about. If you're listening on audio, when you're done driving, go to our Twitter account. You'll see this percentage of roster alive for last national championship. And then it's done by rankings, and it says of the current top 10 teams, according to CBS Sports, how many players were alive the last time their team won the national championship was the question. Tim, this is the worst parts of the internet that 40% of the people that have interacted with that post, which is why it's so engaging, thinks we're saying from that we're talking about the number of Notre Dame players still alive that was alive in 88 that's alive today.
Oh, my God.
So for those of you who don't know much about the internet lives off two things. And Kris and I talk about this in the interview later. People that hate and people that absolutely love. Like, it's the two extremes. But it's also, there's this other niche of like semi-confusing things for normal people. And the Kirkwood and Dunn Analytics Department put this together. And I thought it was pretty straightforward that this is saying current teams. It talks about the current top 10 and of those players who was still alive. But the amount of Notre Dame fans who have come online and argued that there's still people alive, or Oklahoma fans that there's still people alive, is shocking and is a sad state of our internet affairs.
Open the schools. That's what I've got to say. Open the schools. Get the kids back for reading comprehension. Read a book.
I didn't use AI for this, but I did take it and put it into AI and say, what is this graph saying? And AI is like, it's saying of the people on the current roster, how many people are still alive? Because it's so obvious. But I'm reading these reactions and I feel like an idiot. And then people are like, you're wrong. It's about this. People didn't know what NA meant.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Someone said, what does NA mean? Guys, I'm bringing this up because you need to go to our Instagram account and just read these comments. It's worth your time. It's these people vote in our democratic elections. That's all I got.
We also may have tapped into the new part of the internet ecosystem referred to as the dead internet. Because are we entirely sure that wasn't just all bot engagement? That like we're actually throwing that graphic and it's just a bunch of bots arguing with each other because they're built off of crappy AI models that also don't know how to read.
I'm not mad about
stuff,
it,
man. I'm thankful that I think the Hall of Fame listeners of the Kirkwood and Dunn podcast, Hoosier Edits, Hoosier Huddle, all of those types of folks are strong in their reading comprehension and knew what that was. And in my mind, did what I did, which was just like, thanks, analytics department, salute, off to the next thing. Yeah, I understand that Notre Dame hasn't won a title in 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
And none of the players on the team are 50 or 60 years old.
Yeah. It's all it was is like, I sat there and go, how can I reflect that Notre Dame is essentially who I'm targeting?
Yeah.
Hasn't won in a really long time. Like, that's it. And like, you get that created and it's got 4,000 likes and 200 shares and over like 750,000 views on Instagram.
Oh,
it's insane. So I just had to bring that up for you. I forgot. I actually didn't put that on the agenda. I completely forgot.
I briefly saw and I scrolled past it so quick. I was just like, this is duh. Yeah, that's how birth rates work. That's how college athletes work. Like, I know that, but okay.
Again, the only interesting one is Texas, because Texas won in 2005.
Yep.
And so, like, their seniors and juniors were alive, but their first year and second year players are not. Like, that's it. That's the only interesting one that is not 100% or 0%, because everyone else is pretty much 100%. All right, so CBS Sports released their rankings. Tim, I'm going to say let's talk about that on Sunday. Let's give time for people to process that. Spoiler, Curt Cignetti's number one. I want Tim and I both
Tom
need to kind of
Pernelli,
go
ball
through.
knower. There we
Ball
go.
knower. It wasn't just Tom. It was a lot of voters. Though I think Cover 3 does some episodes on it, so maybe we'll get some clips from that so that we can talk about on Sunday. But go check that out. The rankings. It's worth your time every year. It's one of my favorite things, the rankings. But I want Tim's reaction to all Power 4 coaches. Why is Barry Odom at 50 and not dead last? That's the real question that we should be asking ourselves. So we'll take a look at that on Sunday and talk about it. I just want people to know that we're acknowledging that we've seen it, and we'll go there. We had a YouTube listener, Rachel, from last week's podcast, ask us a question that I wanted to cover. She said, your comments about facilities for high school recruits are interesting. As for those who missed last week's podcast, we were talking about high school recruiting and why we are missing out on some players, which we lost out on Mason Oglesby, who's going to Kansas, who I have said on this podcast, I don't think his recruitment's done. It's not tearing down the kid for choosing Kansas, even though that's what people's reaction was to my comments. But it was more, I think it's out of his hands in terms of he's going for that offensive coordinator, Andy Kolenicki. Andy Kolenicki, I don't think is going to be the coach there anymore come November, because I think Lance Leipold's going to get fired. So just my take on the situation. I could be wrong. I'm allowed to be wrong, but Mason Oglesby picks Kansas over Indiana. Kansas just built a brand new facility, stadium, training, locker room, everything. So we were talking about facilities. So that's what that conversation came up with. She says, why do facilities not seem to hold the same weight with upperclassmen? Marcia Mendoza could have chosen a fancy place, and Hoover left a fancy place like TCU. Do transfers have an entirely different mentality and set of priorities? Great question, Rachel. Thank you for saying this in. I told you we'd talk about it on the podcast today. Tim, what's your reaction to Rachel's inquiry?
I think Rachel's probably onto something a little bit here that I wouldn't say it's not nothing. I would bet that Marcia Mendoza approved of the facilities at Indiana. I think the difference is that Marsh and Mendoza have now also experienced other facilities, and most importantly, probably other coaching staff. And Marsh and Mendoza in particular, and every other sort of upperclassman, after a couple years goes, oh, you know what really probably matters here? The coach. A 45-pound weight is a 45-pound weight. An athlete cafeteria that's open from 10 to 11, like, yeah, okay. But like, I need the coach to get me to where I need to go. And that's where Curt Cignetti and the team are winning. Whereas a 17-year-old is looking for a little bit more glitz and glamour, a little bit more wow factor, a little bit more Instagram engagement when they post the where should I go graphic, from their official visit type thing. So I think it's probably more just that the transfer in upperclassmen community is just one that is a little bit wiser, a little bit more mature. Ultimately, I think it still matters to them, but I think their power ranking of those factors is definitely different.
I think it simply comes down to maturity. Things that you make decisions on at 18 and get swept up in the emotions and the glitz and the glamour. And then you get there. Like, how many people, there's a lot of former players that talk about their recruitment process. And then they talk about the moment they get on campus and they're like, oh, I'm not the big shot. They don't need to woo me anymore. Like, I'm shocked by how I'm being treated, how I'm being coached, how I'm being like all this type of stuff. I think that is something that a guy that's coming out 1 or 2 years removed from his high school recruitment has a different expectation of things, right?
Yeah.
And, for Mendoza, he's coming from Cal. It's not like they do not have the greatest facilities. And Alberto was already here. But I bet you, like, Fernando, when he went on his official visit to Georgia and he went his official visit here, he could notice a difference between Georgia's facilities and Indiana's facilities. But God talked to him and told him to go to Indiana. Thank God.
Shout out God.
But it was some element of like Alberto had talked about the development he received, and Fernando, saw how much Alberto had improved under the Indiana coaching staff and was like, I want to go get that development.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those are the types of decisions that he's making. Nick Marsh, there's no secret that Nick Marsh is getting paid a lot of money. The numbers being floated around are probably crap, but it's a lot.
Yep.
And he looked at Notre Dame, who has struggled to produce wide receivers, was a finalist for him. And he looks at Indiana and he goes, yeah, maybe Indiana doesn't have as good of facilities as Notre Dame, but I'm going to get to the league faster and I'm going to be a higher draft pick.
Omar Cooper Jr., first round NFL draft pick. Have you heard of him?
Yeah. Elijah Surratt, who was a 0-star, comes and plays for Indiana, gets developed and gets drafted. And I've seen recent podcasts calling him one of the steals of the draft. So we'll see. Like, those are the types of things that I think those guys weigh more than, again, this isn't knocking kids that choose other places. I think it's just, I would do the same thing.
It's people don't understand, or they're not realizing actually that, like, ultimately this is a job interview process.
Yeah.
And it works both ways, just like it does in any industry, no matter where you're at. And the way that some people approach their first job at 22 when you left college, maybe you just picked the place that gave you the higher salary because you're like, well, cool, I'd rather earn more money. But then you later realize, like, actually who the boss is really matters. Oh, wait, what is the company and how healthy is the company? Are they going to go under soon or not? Wait a second, that matters more to me. Like, all of these things are different. And you may have, if you were an IU grad, a Kelly grad, maybe you had multiple offers and had to weigh those things. But you could have equally liked multiple companies, right? And you're like, this one is, the manager is going to leave after 3 years, so maybe I can get promoted quicker if I go there. I think I'm going to try that one. And it doesn't mean you didn't like the other one or they didn't like you. It's just kind of slotting around a little bit. So, like, I think of this as as you have astutely pointed out, recruitments don't end with a commitment. They don't end on National Signing Day. They end when your eligibility ends with the NCAA, which we also have seen as kind of TBD, ultimately. So I'm not upset that Mason Oglesby chose Kansas. Go have fun, dude. Cool. We'll keep in touch. Maybe this works out later on. I'm going to be pumped if Montrezl Sales chooses us. Like, all of these things kind of matter. They also kind of don't. And we have to be, to your point though, facilities do matter to high school recruits. Whether they should or shouldn't is a whole different case, but they do. So it's the same reason why Google puts in pinball machines and soft serve ice cream machines in their employee lounge. Because that matters. So, like, a brand new employee, they think that's cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Veteran employees choose for different reasons.
And as I said, when we tweeted out the see you in November, like, not taking shots at Mason Oglesby and the amount of, recruiting insiders that Indiana has in the Burnerverse that annoy the crap out of me, were like, please delete this. You still have time to delete this, blah, blah, blah. Or like taking shots at a kid at 18. Again, not understanding this. The amount of Indiana coaches that like that tweet would surprise people.
Yeah,
likes are likes are not public. Likes are not public, so I'm not going to dox anybody. But, like, you would be very surprised how much Indiana, from my take on people liking that tweet, going, yeah, I kind of agree. We've got time.
And that's, like, my general sense right now to the Curt Cignetti era at Indiana. When you think about player acquisition, whether that's high school recruiting or transfer portal, it seems to be an operation that is smart and thoughtful and intentional, and understanding what their needs are, what their values are, what they're looking for. And if that doesn't work out for a player, that's fine. We can move on here. We can do this, or we can go other ways. And so I'm more thankful that, cool, we're going after. Yeah, we're interested in Mason Oglesby. We're interested in Montrezl Sales. We're interested in this kid, and we're gonna keep kind of all of our sticks in the fire to see how this shakes out.
Yep. So let's get to our interview with Kris Drew. Tim wasn't able to join us, but I sat down with Kris. Kris is from Dead Air Sports. He does a lot of podcasts. He does a lot of coverage. We talk about that on the show. Like, he's a Yankees fan, which is why I'm wearing the Royals stuff, because the Yankees are playing the Royals right now and beating our brains in. So I just am trying to get the Royals vibe going as I'm watching this, or as I'm watching us do this, and Kris is part of this episode. Having said that, the fact that we have an Ohio State fan and guy that covers Ohio State on our podcast should tell you everything you need to know about Kris. That Kris is actually a very fun listen, has great perspective on sports and all that fun stuff. So stick around for I know you're going to get into, like, we're going to talk about Ohio State and all that stuff, but Kris has a great perspective. I even talked to him a little bit about Indiana's recruiting and my frustrations. And, he does a good job of talking about that. Plus, Kris came on our radar because Tim at one point went viral in November saying that Florida was a better program than Ohio State. And Kris did a whole segment on us, just absolutely ripping us. But he watched the whole episode and he said he walked away from that. And he talks about in the interview, he walks away from that going, I love these guys. And so Kris has become a friend of mine. It's great. Hopefully I'll get a chance to go on his podcast. We've been trying to link that up, but trying to get Tim on there too. But go check out that interview. And then stick around after as Tim and I talk about all the NCAA stuff with government and the bills they're trying to pass, but also the state of universities as a whole. So here's Kris Drew from Dead Air Sports. Before we get to this interview with Kris Drew, just make sure to like and subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube or Spotify or listening on audio on Apple Podcasts. It really helps out our channel and it goes a long way. Let's get to the interview with Kris. We are now joined by Kris Drew from Dead Air Sports and literally like 15 other podcasts. Because I was like, Kris, what do you want me to actually cover? And you're like, start listing names. You're like, you don't have to do any of it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do at least one. We're going to say Dead Air Sports. We'll tag you and stuff on social media. People are going to be able to find you. Because I know you go on College Football with Sam, and we have a lot of cross over audience with the College Football with Sam folks. But there's some Kirkwood and Dunn people that this is probably the first time they're getting to meet you. And I have been dying for this interview ever since you dropped into our mentions during, I think, right before the Big Ten championship game.
Dude, right? I did. You were my weekly video on how's Indiana media feeling about the Ohio State game, and I would do it in this series. And honestly, like, it's such a bully series because everybody feels good, and like, can they beat the Titan? And they say it, and then it's like I get to come on the next day and be like, we whooped you guys. And I gave your co-host stuff before and it's funny. I listen to your guys' show and I record myself listening to it. And as I'm going, I'm picking up what's happening. And like, but at the beginning of it, I was like, okay, like, not really ball knowers. At the end of it, I'm like, wait, I understand it. I'm here for it. And then I was the non-ball knower because you guys ended up winning the Natty. So,
well, Tim isn't ducking you. I'm recording this early for those listening to this on Wednesday, where Tim's at Carb Day, which, the Indiana ritual of the Indy 500. He's got to be out there represent Kirkwood and Dunn there. But this was the time that worked for both of us, and so he's not. Even though, like, I've been asked to do more interviews for Tim's comments about Florida being a greater program than Ohio State than Tim has done at all. So, like, he's got the perfect fit. He comes on a mic, he drops that, we clip it, sends it out, and then I get a bunch of questions about what Tim said. So I think that's how he likes it.
Well, we all have co-hosts like that. I mean, I can definitely attest to that. I think I reached out to you after I did the series with a clip that I cut up from it.
Yeah.
Because I like my thing with Indiana fans. And at first I got some of the frustration from Big Ten fans about like how Indiana fans were proceeding and how Indiana media was proceeding. But then I realized that as someone who's an Ohio State fan, I feel like I'm part of the old guard of the Big Ten. And I was trying to tell people, hey, like, it's a little bit annoying in the moment, but Indiana fans need to be like put on a pedestal and championed and celebrated. And look, it's like, yeah, they're gonna scratch us a little bit, but what they're really here for is to help us celebrate other Big Ten teams that can get loud, because the SEC is like the common enemy for me.
Yeah.
And like, I get no interest in tearing out Indiana fans for being happy about winning a national title when people the year before you guys won the title were going on ESPN broadcasts saying that you guys shouldn't have been in the playoffs, even after we watched Tennessee get absolutely destroyed by Ohio State. And so,
Yeah.
so that's kind of where my realization kind of ended up. But yeah, we connected because of that. We've been talking about doing a show together for forever, and I'm overly busy and the worst friend ever, and I'm finally here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, Kris jumps into my mentions, and this is a testament to like your followers, because like everyone, you jump in, and at the time, everyone gave us a hard time for being like coming out of the woodwork for all of a sudden Indiana's good, and we started doing a podcast and stuff. It's like, no, I just wasn't really in YouTube spaces and watching college football creators, because I wasn't doing it myself. We were just doing an audio podcast that like 10 people were listening to. And so like we like get out here, Tim goes viral, all this stuff. You jump in there. I think I was like stranger danger. Like who is this person? Because you're asking me to join your Discord, which I just still don't even have a Discord. And I'm like, I have no idea what a Discord is. And so like all of a sudden your fans are like, go on there, go talk to Kris. He's awesome. He's awesome. And so it was very apparent, okay, this is a guy I should probably get to know who he is. Then I started consuming your stuff. And it was definitely your episode with College Football with Sam, which I'm going to put in a link in the mentions on YouTube and Spotify, where you talk about Indiana's approach. And you're an Ohio State fan. And I grew up with an affinity towards Michigan because I hated Ohio State so much. And it was mainly because of their fans. And I'm like listening to you and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy actually like has a pretty rational view on all this type of stuff. Then I find out you're a New York Yankee fan. Like I am a Kansas City Royal fan. I grew up in the early 90s and we hated the Yankees because of our games in the 80s. So I have to ask you, when you watch Star Wars, did you have an affinity towards the Empire in Star Wars? Like, did you root against the rebellion?
It's actually so funny you said that. The thing's on the TV right now. It's back behind me. But I'm watching Star Wars Legends. I root for the bad guys. Like, I root for the bad guys. Like, I watch The Dark Knight. I root for the Joker. And it's in the Yankees. The Yankees-Ohio State thing is hilarious. Because it's like you hear the stereotypes, like how many Yankees Ohio State fans like are there?
Yeah,
it's like a gross like little
you and Big Ev
topic, but it's because I played for the West Akron Yankees growing up, and so all of my hats were just Yankee hats. Yeah, and then like it kind of bled into it. But yes, I do root for the Empire. Traditionally speaking, I'm a big Empire rooter. I do blame the Jedi for what happened. I think that it was their issues that caused it. I think that Count Dooku was really the good guy in all this. If Obi-Wan Kenobi just joins him in episode 2, we solve it all.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Empire was really just trying to get a hold of trade regulations. Like that's all they were trying to do, just trying to regulate some things, help small businesses out. Bingo. By saying standards.
So I like the Republic, but I didn't like that it became the Empire. So that's kind of where I'm at. No, I'm glad you asked that, dude, because I feel like a lot of people are scared that I'll get mad about like the front runner thing, but I will not. I've been hoping to address this for quite some time.
Well, no, honestly, let's talk about Indiana, because I mean, again, I'm linking it in there. People can go watch your full thing, but we've now been 4 months removed from a national championship, and there are times like it is the greatest and easiest engagement on Twitter for Indiana fans to all of a sudden tweet out that I can't believe Indiana won a national championship, or a century of futility has been forgotten, like Chris Fowler's last line, because it is moments when I'm like, we live in a world as a college football fan before I was an Indiana fan, where that was impossible. And like when we beat Ohio State, I remember feeling so satisfied that I was like, I never thought I'd see that. I'm wearing my Big Ten championship shirt because I never thought I would see Indiana beat Ohio State in that type of setting. And that maybe Ohio State had a down year and Indiana wins, but like that was a historically great defense on Ohio State's side of the ball. Right. So from your perspective and seeing as a college football guy, just seeing that rise, like take us through what has been your thinking on what Indiana did and where they possibly could go.
So it's two parts, right? I think it's incredible, and I think it's almost being a little bit it's almost not talked about enough how absurd it is for them to win a title. And they won a title while trying to show what I call proof of concept. I think that people assumed because Cignetti came from like IUP, then to JMU, that he was going to be a guy that only wants to recruit like the small town guys, the overlooked guys, develop and then go win. And I think he was in a window where he's trying to show a proof of concept. Like, look, we can do this. And they won in a proof of concept year. I think that is absolutely incredible. I am a firm believer that this is not only like a special one-off moment. I think Sig is going to win multiple. Like if someone held the death beam to me, it was like, hey, look, does Cignetti get another title at Indiana before this thing's all said and done? I'm saying, I mean, honestly, easily, yes, 1 and potentially 2, because they did it off the backs of great evaluation and great coaching, to the point where people in the Miami spaces accuse you guys of cheating. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, we got it.
There is this like thing that there's this change that happened with the NIL and portal era, because before, people were confusing what's a good coach versus what's a good recruiter. And we've never had a juggernaut of both before. Sig is the first ever juggernaut of both a great recruiter and a great developer. I mean, the closest we had to it before was likely Saban. I would argue that Saban got away with missing on evals because he was able to stack talent. Cignetti is batting 1,000 on talent, and he's also a great developer, and that is like a rare combination. In the SEC, everything is about like, are you a good coach? Well, look at who you've recruited. And like Sig, I don't know. Do you have a theory on why Cignetti never got a job after he left Bama?
Well, I think him leaving Bama and going down hurt him for getting a job.
Why do you think he had to go down?
Yeah, so we talked about this. We ranked like the top 10 worst takes about Indiana's, and my number one, how we do our rankings, it's probably not number one, but it is number one that we had on the list, was that the only reason why Cignetti won is because he was under Nick Saban coaching tree. Like it's basically Nick Saban. I think he's quirky, and I think he is someone who didn't play the political game at times to be able to put himself in position. And my speculation is that he got passed over being an offensive coordinator at Alabama. He was not the sexy hire that even maybe the power structures that beat. Like there's a weird tension between Saban and Cignetti. Like Saban does not talk about Cignetti.
I think something happened between them. And I think it goes deeper to like, I don't even view him as under the Saban tree, even though he is.
Yeah.
Because Saban didn't start winning until Cignetti got there. And every single coach, every single one on that staff got a P5 Division I job directly from there, even without being the coordinator. Mel Tucker went on to go get a job. Mario Cristobal went on to go get a job. Kirby Smart went on to go get Georgia. Like every single coach ended up going to another P5 job. And Saban would help those guys get jobs. And the only one that was a full-time, I mean, he landed Mark Ingram and Julio Jones. That is recruiting chops to go be big time anywhere in the SEC. He was the only one that didn't get any love. So, and honestly, I think it kind of helped him because he knew how to recruit, and then he had to go to IUP, where it's like not about recruiting. It's about purely developing. In the SEC, the currency was recruiting. In these lower divisions, the currency is developmental. And so as I'm watching this play out on the football field, there's no doubts. After I did a live stream for the Ohio State Indiana game where me, a couple of my friends sat down, we watched the game all together, start to finish. We're watching this game go on. About the third quarter, I'm starting like, this game is over. And then I know it was tight. I know Jaden Philly missed a couple kicks. They win that game, and Indiana wins that game. And my first reaction is, that's the national champion. Like, wow, that's it right there.
Yeah.
They do everything right. There is really not a way to beat them. And if you take away one of their strengths, they'll just go down the ladder, and they've got guys that are developed at every position. So I'm watching, and I'm like, people don't realize what we're watching is a Nick Saban early team.
Yeah.
People don't realize that at all. So that's how I watch it as like an Ohio State fan. And I'm blown away by it. And I also think that like, generally speaking, I think most coaches are confused in coping with how Cignetti won the title, because you've seen it. I've seen my coach do it. Teams have now been obsessed with getting older players, but Cignetti's kind of gone on and said, like, I didn't want to do this with older players. We had to, but now we're going to go.
Yeah, had to. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's wildly impressive, man. I think I don't know what to make of him, but it's the single best coaching job I've ever seen, and I think he's too good of a coach to not win another one.
So you're in media, and you deal with fan bases from all different sides, because you don't even just talk specifically Ohio State. You'll talk to different schools and stuff like that. I think Indiana is kind of going through a transformational period in their fandom in football that following along with recruiting and all that type of stuff. And those that listen to Kirkwood and Dunn know, like last Wednesday's episode, I had a pretty epic rant on this. I talk about this on Twitter quite a bit, is that not every recruit that commits to your program is going to be a Hall of Famer.
Right.
And not every recruit that decommits is a bum and lazy and doesn't want to be coached. Like that's like the reaction for Indiana fans right now. But you've seen cycles, especially after Ohio State won a national championship, and Ohio State's always been up and coming, recruiting really, really strongly. But even before, like Michigan's probably a good example of this too, because even though Michigan won a national title 3 years ago, they were not a great football program before. Like Jim Harbaugh almost got fired in 2020, and like
got fired
the 20 years before that, like it were desolate, right? Like it's not one of those things, but all of a sudden Michigan starts ramping up. They're having to deal with this. Have you been surprised that Indiana has not played in that 5-star, land the 5-star guys, get a lot of momentum, do what Miami's absolutely killing it in recruiting right now. And it feels like they're capitalizing. Mario Cristobal's always been a good recruiter, but they're capitalizing on their momentum. Is Indiana, are you concerned that they're not going to be a top 10 recruiting class? Like, is there a cap on that? And does it really matter?
So here you go. This 2 parts. I think they're almost there. Sometimes like right now, no matter what, you guys just won a national title. Your brand doesn't move the needle the way the Miami brand does. And with the Miami brand, I'll start with them generally speaking. And I don't think this is fair at all. And I firmly disagree with this. Miami is in a cult-rich, heavy high school level place. Yep. There's not a lot of 5-stars in the state of Indiana. In Florida, there's 3 or 4 5-stars every single year.
Yeah.
So, like, naturally, regionally, they're going to play in those waters, and these kids grow up and their parents grow up. And Miami, Florida State, Florida, like, they carry weight, even though they haven't all been great recently, other than Miami, who just got good for 1 year. Like, it still feels like a destination place. Like, I want to grow up and go play for Miami, like just like my pops did. There regionally aren't enough 5-stars in the North to have that kind of structure. And part of that is because recruiting is bigger in the South. And part of that is also because a lot of these rankings, you get like Bama bumps and SEC bumps because ESPN uses it for their FPI. So for Indiana fans, they shouldn't be worried about not playing in that class yet, because really they just won the title with under a 10% blue chip ratio. So if they start, hovering around like top 15 recruiting classes, that's enough to sustain a really, really good run. And also, like, I wonder about coaches, because here we go, we've stopped playing with a lot of 5-stars too. I don't know if you know. Like, there's certain 5-stars that we'll go all out for, like Jeremiah Smith, like DJ, like we'll go in for them. But the fringe 5-stars, like sometimes it's like we will turn it off pretty early, and we're a destination spot. But for Indiana, I'm not worried about them kind of in the recruiting world, because I think SIG supersedes that, and because they won, you should change the way you view the sport. But they're gonna land talent like 3 years delayed. So generally, meaning when you have a really, really good run, you have to repeat it, and then there's a 3-year window for you to be good in. Then you'll start getting the kids. What is that 3-year run? You need kids to watch Indiana be good for their entire high school career. 1 off isn't enough. 2 off isn't enough. That freshman needs to, like, 8th grade freshman year. Wow, I like Indiana. Whoa, Mendoza #1 overall. Whoa, Marsh, a 1st-round pick. Whoa, Charlie Becker finished 2nd in the Winnickoff. Whoa, now I want to go there. So, like, recruiting-wise, like, it's always going to be like a 2 or 3 year delay, or else you'll end up like Tennessee. Like here we go. Like, Tennessee was special for 1 year. They're bad now, and it's like, oh, we're stuck here.
Yeah.
Like, Missouri was good for 1 year. Damon Wilson went there. They were bad. Guess where Damon Wilson's at now? Miami. So I think you have to be good for the tenure of a high school kid's career to start stacking up those top 10 classes.
Yeah, it's hard to see like Bob Chesney out at UCLA. Like, they're having a killer class, but I do have to remind.
They're going crazy, but they also have more billionaires than people realize. And there are more 5-stars in California
and less schools.
Bingo,
like, there's less schools that take football seriously. Like, we're in the state of Indiana, and we have Notre Dame here, Ohio State next door, Michigan up north. Like, there's schools that are and like UCLA's got USC. Like,
Yeah,
that's
USC
it.
and Oregon sometimes, but Oregon is playing a unique game where they don't even really build a fence around
No,
their
they're
home state.
national.
They just go full
Yeah.
nationally. But like here, for the last like 10 years, I mean, just as an Ohio State fan, like Indiana's best player, if he's Ohio State caliber, he comes here. Like Caden Curry, like come here.
Curry. Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I'm at. So you guys are gonna have to defeat that. But
and like Torbert, the one that kind of set me off my rant was this Torbert kid at Cincinnati, and a lot of people are like, he's decommitted and now probably going to Ohio State, and it's like you have to remind people, if you grow up in Cincinnati or Ohio in general, and all of a sudden Ohio State takes a look at you, you usually listen. Like it's the thing that happens, and the Indiana's got to overcome that. I am a recruiting junkie. And so like, it is kind of tough to watch us not have the success that you would have thought the momentum have. And then see schools like UCLA and you're like, what? Like, you're going to go play for Bob Chesney, you know, Timu, Curt Cignetti out there on the West Coast. Like, what are we doing? They have like 12 fans. So it is really frustrating to me. All right. You brought up the SEC a few times. We got to talk about this because one of the things that you have been very public about on Kirkwood and Dunn is that we're kind of like, we laugh at other fan bases. We make jokes. Like we're having fun. It's kind of SEC like in terms of rivalries. And, you know, you and I are friends, but man, I hate Ohio State. I'm going to tell you all about Ohio State. When Indiana beats Ohio State, I'm going to be in Chris's mentions, letting him know that that's how we are. Right. Oh, SEC, how they come together and see themselves as a brand. And you got people like Peter Burns parroting Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian talking about Texas Tech this week. Like, it's all like, we're so hard. Every game is really, really hard. Like, you don't understand. What is your take on the SEC and where it's going? And are they really grasping at straws as moving forward in this new era of college football?
Are you a Twitter Spaces junkie?
I'm not. Is there some good ones that I need to get on?
Well, I was years ago. I don't really do it too much anymore, but I remember being in a space and I remember fan bases talking about like conferences or whatever and talking about schedules, who's fraudulent and who's not. And I'll never forget like the moment it kind of clicked for me. It was an Arkansas fan calling Ohio State fraudulent because they play in the Big Ten. And Arkansas plays in the SEC and we're the best conference. And we would go 10-2 if we play in the Big Ten. And I'm over here like, oh my God, I would never, ever, ever. I would be so embarrassed if I was a Big Ten fan and a Rutgers fan said we would go 10-2 in the Big 12 or in the SEC. I would be so embarrassed. And yet other SEC fans like champion and celebrate how bad Arkansas is, but it's okay because like they're playing in our conference. My big thing is like, because of Indiana, because of Oregon, because of USC, because of NIL, because of the portal, specifically the spring window, the Big Ten has passed the SEC, and I want more people to acknowledge it. Now, on your guys' side, I like how loud you guys are, like Indiana fan base, because Curt Cignetti needed Indiana fans to believe because he wants Indiana fans to be loud because that is good for the conference in totality. I want Illinois fans to listen to you guys. I want Wisconsin fans to tune into your guys' show. I want all these like bubbling schools that maybe have a shot to feel like they're allowed to get on a mic even when their team's not very good. Yeah. Because when they are good, like they'll be the voice. So I like directionally like how you guys operate because you guys have like operated like we are rivals, which I don't view us as rivals, but you guys operate like that. And I think it's good for camaraderie in the Big Ten. And also like, I don't want to, when I get a win, I don't want to look on Twitter and not see a fan base available. Yeah. Like when you beat Iowa, there's no fan base. There's just nothing. Oh, wow. There's just nothing there. Or at least for me.
I found my clip for this week. get the Iowa Birderverse.
We're good. No, clip this. The Iowa fan base is so disappointing because this offseason, I have done more legwork in terms of Iowa against Vandy fans than actual Iowa fans have. And so where are you? Like, I just need more. And like, you guys in particular are like are kind of that for the Big Ten. And other Big Ten fans are like, they're so annoying. Like, why are they coming out of the woodworks? It's like, no. This is what you want because, yeah, like they're going to beat us every now and again. But this is the fan base that you want to hand the swords to because that's the group that just went and cut the head off of Alabama. That's that group.
Literally.
That's the group that went and cut the heads off Miami.
Yeah.
I don't want Miami fans to feel safe coming up into Big Ten country and kind of mixing because I want there to be Indiana fans there with the swords out. Here's a Fernando Mendoza touchdown for you. Like, I don't want a Bama fan to like make a comment about Ohio State or about, Ryan Williams or whatever and think that they could just be up in like Big Ten conversations because I want them to know that, hey, look, there's others. Like, it's not just us that can beat you. There's a bunch of other schools lurking here that can also beat you. So, yeah, I don't know.
Indiana is basically Joffrey from from Game of Thrones and just chopping off people's heads, just because that's what we do.
Bingo.
And then hopefully we don't end up eating poison.
I want Northern pride, because SEC pride is so insufferable, and I've realized that the only way to show them how insufferable it is to do it back to them.
Yeah, no, it is hilarious to be satirical about our fandom, just mocking them, and they don't even realize what's happening.
They don't realize it, bro.
It's great.
And I'm a part of the problem because I didn't realize that's what Tim was doing, but it was brilliant. Like by the end of the episode that I did, I was like, oh my God, like Tim gets it. Tim is just an Ohio State fan that's been reskinned as an Indiana fan.
Yeah, it's he's got a gift. He's got that gift there, which is why he made me love me or hate me, but you listened. He made me redo that meme for him whenever people get really upset about him.
Love me or hate me, but you listened.
Yeah, so SEC, like one of the things like fundamental that I don't think they understand was something you touched on earlier, in the fact that I think they hired a certain type of coach and a certain type of staff that was all centered around getting the 5 and 4 star kids.
Right. And
the North didn't have to do that as much, especially in the NIL era with transfers and stuff like that. But also it was a lot of, I just don't think the average football fan realizes if you get a 4-star out of Texas, he's going to be a 4-star because he is literally has a class in football, a high school class in football, and is playing all year round. You get a 3-star out of Minnesota, there's a chance that kid develops into a 4 or 5-star because he's never done that much time into football because he's probably playing 3 or 4 sports and doing like different things. And then he's a big old boy and he gets in a weight room and they tone him out and stuff like that. And he develops.
We know the example is. The example is like, if for the last 20 years, we have forced Big Ten coaches to win without having the recruiting. And now we're giving them the recruiting. It's like, if Josh, here we go. If Drew Brees all of a sudden year 5 in the NFL was given Josh Allen's body, you'd be looking at the greatest quarterback ever. You just would be, because Drew Brees had to learn how to win without being the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest. So he had to be the smartest and had to get the most out of the least. Just point blank, period. But Big Ten schools are doing that, and then all of a sudden, and the thing you were deficient in that you had to figure out a way to win without, we're going to give it to you now. Yeah. And so
that's what we were talking about with Cignetti.
Bingo.
Like he learned all those things, and all of a sudden he gets players. And then it's like, this is why I'm always so upset that we lose a talented kid that I think is talented, is because I want to see Cignetti coach those guys. I would love to see him coach a 4 or 5-star,
because he's unlocking guys. And like the 3-star guys, while I agree with you, those 3-star guys are likely like developmentally away from being 4 or 5-star guys, just naturally. It's just like, but is the currency recruiting or is the currency development? And now we can recruit with money. So what are you going to do when guys get here? And then also the other side of it is like these SEC schools for forever were able to recruit so much talent that they didn't have to worry about a miss developmentally, because if someone was bad, they would just go to the next guy. But in the Big Ten, there was no next guy if someone was bad. We had to make sure you were playable. And that's what the SEC is missing, which is why, here we go, players like Alabama. What could Alabama not do? They couldn't run the ball at all. They couldn't keep Ty Simpson healthy at all. Well, this was the first time that Bama was thin at offensive line, because they weren't taking 4 5-star offensive line every single year because they just can't. And so if they miss on a prospect, it's like, well, we missed on you, but we got to play you because we're not able to stack the talent behind you because this school can also pay you and this school can also pay you. And that's what we watched. That's what the 12-team playoff is giving us.
Okay, let's talk about the future of college football. I really hate the narratives right now that college football is broken. Seeing what we're doing at the White House and like all this stuff, like the fact that we have a team like Indiana can rise up and win in this era should tell you that there's something going right in college football. Like the power isn't as consolidated as it used to be. We haven't seen this, but let's talk about, I think the biggest thing that Ohio State, Indiana, Michigan, all of us fans can agree on. And it's that Fox owning noon kicks and always putting either Ohio State as probably their number 1 choice, Michigan's their number 2 choice, and Indiana's their number 3 choice right now. We all have to do noon kickoffs. Like, where is this TV contracts going? And do you ever see us consolidating in the sense that Fox, CBS, ESPN, NBC kind of does the NFL model where they all bid on those postseasons and then they can distribute stuff evenly? Like, is that where you see us going? Or do you think we're still going to stay regional and tied to regional in the sense that you're tied to certain media companies like we are now with Fox?
I think if we get a 2014 playoff, things will start to shake loose. I think if we don't get one, things will not shake loose.
ESPN does not want one. They do not want the 2014 because of that reason.
Bingo. So it's like right now, like ESPN, it's so hilarious, dude, because ESPN is saying, no, we do not want a 2014 playoff. We want a 16 team is the furthest we'll go because that's the extent of their rights. SEC coaches are saying we want a 2014 playoff, but ESPN is saying, SEC saying no 2014 playoff. But until so if we stay at 12, the TV contracts are going to stay regional. And welcome to the Big Noon Club, by the way. Like this is
it's going to be a lot.
It sucks, but I am glad that there's more than just us playing at noon. So I guess like it'll be regional until they expand, and if they don't expand, then it's just something that we're gonna have to be okay with. But when the next TV contract is up, I would hope that Indiana is swinging a big enough stick then to be like, hey, look, like we want a cap on Big Noon games per team, and because I know Ohio State will kind of have that same sentiment. I know Oregon will be on board with that. I know USC will be on board with that because they're out west schools, and I also know Michigan will be on board with that. So if those 5 schools start to swing a big enough stick for the next negotiation, I think that'll work out. And for the next negotiation, I think Fox will be into it if other Big Ten teams continue to kind of uptick a little bit, right? Like if UCLA ends up being pretty decent, then it's okay. Like I'm okay with capping Ohio State and Indiana to 2 noon games because I know that like I can also get like an Indiana or a UCLA Illinois game that'll be a good game. So that's what needs to happen for there to be some wavering on that time slot. But until then, it's like a battle that just like hurts my brain to have to deal with.
But is college football like I think I'm going to ask this question in 2 parts. The reason why Fox goes to that noon time is because they don't want to go up against the SEC.
Which is a problem.
It is a problem. But I'll give the SEC fans credit. They watch they do ridiculous amounts. Like there's a reason why Alabama, Indiana was one of the highest postseason games. Is because obviously the Indiana story, but Alabama, they will watch their team no matter what. And you look at all these ratings, the ESPN time slot and stuff. But the problem is it because it's the only thing on and it's that time slot?
No, it's because you and I are also watching that game is my point. Here we go. Like I'm an Ohio State fan. I have a Big Noon Kickoff. Well, okay. Like my game's over by 3:30 and the night game is Alabama, Tennessee. Yeah, I'm going to watch that game. But if Ohio State, Penn State is on at that exact same time, I'm not. So ESPN is essentially, because of the Fox issue, they're capitalizing off also our fan bases.
So why is Fox so scared to go up against ESPN and do a night slot game? And then on the other side of this, why is college football so scared that we're playing semifinal games on a Friday night in the middle of January because they're so scared of the NFL of going up against a wild card game on a Saturday?
I understand the NFL fear more than I understand the evening fear, because if you look at like broadcast per year, I think like in 2024, 96 of the top 100 American broadcasts were NFL games, which is like a crazy stat. But so I understand that one maybe a little bit more. I still think you just need to just go for it anyway. And I think you need to challenge it and at least show that like you can at least make a dent. But I don't know why Fox is so scared of ESPN. I don't. I think that honestly, it's it sounds like an advertisement issue. And like advertisers are like, why would I spend this much with you at the same time slot when I can spend this much with them? And they're like proven, because that's kind of how advertisers tend to work. They work off like history and not projections. Primarily speaking, they do some projections, but primarily it's off of like history. So I think that could be it. But I don't think it justified fear at all, because like the number one game every single year is Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah.
Like point blank.
Yeah.
Like Ohio State fans will show up anywhere. And also like, I think as the Big Ten continues to beat the SEC, I think Fox needs to realize, okay, like this is the dominant conference. Let's see. Because here's the thing. If you make the move tonight and you take a big enough chunk out of ESPN, they might be reactionary and move their time slots. And that's what I think they should do.
Well, and I think if they all come together, like the Super League or whatever's been rumored and all this stuff.
Are you a Super Leaguer out of curiosity? Are you a Super League guy?
I wasn't for soccer. I was very worried about that when Europe was talking about going Super League style, but I think it's almost inevitable. So I'm like, and 2 years ago in 2022, 2023, Indiana would not have been a part of any Super League. Like, I think they were one of the ones that got dropped in the Big Ten, which is.
Do you feel like the new kids on the block a little bit?
Yeah, of course. And this was what Tim and I kept saying when we were leading up to Ohio State, and the number one thing Ohio State fans, and they still do this, whenever we tweet out something positive, of course, I'm going to tweet out Jay Fielding missing a field goal and Ryan Day's reaction to that, because it's one of the funniest clips of the internet. And everyone's like, we won for 30 straight years and blah, blah. Yeah, man, we knew we were bad. Like, you're not telling us anything new. Like, if all of a sudden you're like, oh, you just became fans. No, we were fans. You just didn't care about us, which is totally fine that you didn't care about us, but we're here. So
I'm a New York Giants fan, so I get it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, except you have like Eli Manning's 2 Super Bowls still.
Right.
Indiana
we're not good.
We didn't win a bowl game since 1994.
Yeah, that's real. You're right.
like this is where we're at. So all that being said, I just think that we're in a position where at the Super League that we'd be a part of it, which would make it more exciting. I do worry about the smaller teams, or the teams that like the regional stuff that makes college football so special, that we're going to lose a little bit of that. I graduated from Kansas State University. Will K-State be a part of the Super League? And if they are, is Kansas, and they're rivals.
I'm shocked that you're pro Super League. I am very anti Super League because of you. Like, you are the no kid left behind. Like, you guys would have been left behind 2 years ago.
We would have.
Like, I care about the next Indiana, so I'm not pro Super
League. I think it matters how they do it. If they actually, like, when we say Super League, if they actually get it together and split conferences back to being more regional and negotiate TVs and balance out stuff, and also pay the players like in a justifiable manner in terms of collective bargaining, like that's the biggest thing that I just
that's the big
absolutely dread of all the conversations. Is like, we need to go back to what college football used to be. Oh, you mean when you were exploiting labor? Like, is that what we want to do? Yeah. So it's like all that type of stuff that I get so disgusted at, that the Super League seems to be the only thing that could actually save that, because there'd be collective bargaining. There would be no SEC Big Ten driving things and diametrically opposed views. Like, it would be one thing. So I think that's where I fall in the Super League.
Definitely checks.
Yeah. So, all right. You've been very generous with your time. We're going to jump to our final 4 questions, 4 quick questions and reactions to we just want to know from you. My first question to you is, what is your favorite version of the Ohio State uniform? Because your Nike uniforms are sick.
Ooh, okay. This is going to mess people up. Okay, like, am I including alternates or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So my favorite uniform ever is the Terrell Pryor home uniforms they wore against Michigan with the gumdrop helmets. Your fan base is going to have to go look it up. They're like a very strange one-off high fashion version. But my second favorite is the wolf gray alternates. But I like the classic home uniforms.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're an Adidas school. Adidas has nothing with Indiana. I'm
first
so
Adidas national champion.
Right, and it was
Nike national champion.
It would have been Miami and Indiana, or either one. So Adidas does not deserve what they got last year because they invested nothing into our program. And Cignetti seems. I think we're going to get new uniforms this year. Is kind of the rumor because Cignetti uses the last version practice uniforms. Like they don't have like their own so they're using last year's uniforms as practice uniforms. Yeah, so there's something coming. Which that's what we speculate on that. If you could make one stadium improvement to the shoe, what would it be? Ohio Stadium.
I would go grass.
Go back to natural grass. How long has it been since they've had natural grass?
Forever. It's been a long time. We have the
they got new turf.
We're getting new turf because the turf we had before was that slit turf.
The ones that New York Giants have at Meadowlands. Oh,
yeah,
dude, I did not realize that.
Both my teams had the one turf that the NFLPA wanted banned, and I've seen it get the MetLife graveyard is crazy. Malik Neighbors, Odell Beckham Jr., Victor Cruz, and then on the Ohio State side, people forget we should have won a natty in 2021 or 2022, but JSN had the hamstring.
Yep.
We've had all these soft tissue injuries. I mean, Nick Bosa, it took him out too.
JSN had the hamstring, or he had the getting ready for the NFL hamstring.
Dude, so I'm glad you brought this up. I spent a lot of time asking around about this.
Yeah.
So he hurt the hamstring against Notre Dame. Came back 2 weeks early and played. And he was supposed to be on a snap count. And they almost doubled his snap count. He re-aggravated it that time. And there was no clear answers as to why he got cleared, why he was playing against a bad team, a bunch of things. And then was going to try to come back. But there was a rumor that he stopped coming to class. And that is why he did not play in the Georgia game. Because he did after the Michigan game. All right, we're not, nothing, it's over. But then they made the playoffs anyway. So I heard that. But also, I think the JSN injury was something because Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate both missed a little bit of time with some leg injuries last year. And it kind of got really hushed. Because I do think that was because of the turf. So I do think JSN was absolutely hurt.
JSN had one of the greatest performances I've ever seen against Utah in the Rose Bowl. That was so freaking amazing.
I feel like I was watching Kobe's 81.
Yeah. It was incredible. Okay. So, obviously, Indiana is going to have a better receiver room than Ohio State this year. Duh. But when all said and done with everyone that's on Ohio State's roster now, so you can't take any recruits from next year. Okay. When all said and done, you and I are doing a YouTube channel 25 years from now, and we're reflecting on the Ryan Day era of receivers. Who will be known as the greatest of that group?
Jeremiah Smith.
You think so?
Smith. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith is I'm from Akron, Ohio. Jeremiah Smith is LeBron James of receivers.
Wow.
Yeah. He came into Ohio State with unreal expectations and exceeded them and won a natty in year one. Marvin Harrison Jr. was a top 3 pick, and freshman year Jeremiah Smith was better than Marvin Harrison Jr. was his final year. Carnell Tate was a top 4 pick, and there's a wide gap between the two, and I think Carnell Tate's an incredible player. Emeka is going to go for 1,000 yards every year for the next 6 years in the NFL. There was a wide gap between Emeka and freshman year Jeremiah Smith. I've never seen anything like it. Cignetti, who recruited Julio, said that Jeremiah Smith has looser hips and probably a little faster.
Which is insane.
I don't know. He to me and so my Mount Rushmore and for me, my favorite receiver of all time at Ohio State is Garrett Wilson. That's people know that I was before Jeremiah Smith came to Ohio State, I was calling Garrett Wilson the greatest to ever touch a blade of grass. Not just at Ohio State history, just in the history of the sport. That's how great I think he is. And Jeremiah Smith is that.
All right. We're asking all of our summer guests this. What will be Indiana's record in 2026?
11-1.
11-1, really?
Yeah, with a home loss to us.
Yeah.
With a home loss to the good guys.
I don't know. Like, it will be so shocking for Ohio State to walk into Memorial Stadium and not get a loud cheer.
Yeah.
Like, that's usually what it's been like. Like, Indiana always had like Ohio State's band come do like a special halftime thing when I would go to home games. I'm wondering if that's just all going to change. Like, I think it's the game of the year, in my opinion,
I'd agree.
for next season. I know for some weird reason for national media guys, it doesn't always make their top 5, top 10, which is insane.
They're morons.
Yeah, but like, it is the game of the year. October 17th, it's going to be insane.
Dude,
So,
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like the boy wonders of college football right now? Like, do you guys feel like people are happy for you, or do you think people are already starting to hate you guys?
Oh, I think it's starting to change to hate.
Okay.
For sure. Last year during the national championship run, it was, except for the teams we were directly playing, it was overwhelmingly positive. Like, I mean, I live in Ann Arbor, literally have Indiana stuff walking into bars and people grabbing me on the shoulder and being like, dude, we're rooting for you.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of it was just go beat Ohio State. That's usually what they followed up with. But it was, they were rooting for us. It's going to change, and it's going to change because Cignetti's personality is one that when we inevitably lose in 3 seasons, because I think it's going to take about 3 seasons for us to lose another game, Cignetti will, like, it will grind on people and they will love to dunk on him. Just like when he said, we kick top 25 teams' ass when he's seen at Notre Dame and then they got beat pretty good.
Right.
And people love to remind him of that. And Notre Dame loves to play that one clip from Jeremiah Love running away from D'Angelo Ponce. I think people are ready to say the Indiana thing was a fraud, and it's going to take one slip up and it's just going to.
It's unfortunate that you guys only got one before the hate started, because like for the Warriors, like they won one and people like were happy, and then people got mad when Kevin Durant joined them. But like people were so thrilled when Pat Mahomes got his first one. Like they were like, really, this is really cool. Then he got the second one, and it's like, nah, we hate it. We don't like this anymore. So I used to go to the rule that like after your second title, then people don't like it. But you guys are, I mean, from what I'm seeing, it's a lot of SEC hate though. My co-host, it's so funny. We played a game yesterday on Ice Doing Rundown, and he was like, the opening question was, and we have an Ohio State community, obviously. The opening question was, what game, if you had to guarantee a win, what win would you guarantee this year? Because this year's Ohio State schedule is crazy. We have Oregon, Texas, and you guys. And I said very quickly, and Michigan too at the end. I said very quickly, Texas.
Texas. That's what I would say.
Yeah, because I hate the SEC more than anything.
Yeah.
His answer was Indiana, because he hates how much I'm a fan of Indiana, and he thinks that I'm hard on a lot of other schools, not being hard on them. I'm like, Doug, how you want to be hard on for what? Like, saying is perfect. Like, what do you want to be hard on? What do you want to say? So there is a faction of Ohio State fans that have a lot of extra hate towards Indiana, because like Cignetti feels like he solved the sport. And I think Ohio State fans have a jealousy because they thought a year ago that Ryan Day solved the sport. And I was one of the ones that kind of parroted that.
That's the one question. I guess I have to have you on for another interview, because I want to dive into the Ryan Day just doubt is kind of how I'd put it, that just is always permeating around him. And it's hard for me to really hate Ryan Day, even though he gets it. I mean, mainly because he pierces his nipples, which is pretty cool. But no, I find it, I hated Urban Meyer.
Right.
Hated him.
And I love
it's hard
Urban.
for me to muster.
In fact, I like Urban the person. This is going to sound so foul. I like Urban the person and the personality more than I like Ryan Day the person, the personality, because I do root for the Empire.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
For the bad guys.
Chris, you've been awesome. Go follow him on Twitter, even though he told me he doesn't tweet enough. But at Christopher Drew, and that's Christopher with a K underscore. Go check him out. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel, especially Dead Air Sports, which Chris does. He is a phenomenal just perspective on everything. Hopefully you enjoyed this interview. Chris, we'll talk during the season, and it's going to be a good one. But thanks for coming on, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
if you stuck around this long, thank you for sticking around and getting to this part. The Kris Drew interview is fantastic. We'll cut that up and put it out online for people to watch in its totality, because it is a long one, which is why this podcast is a little bit longer. But Kris, hey, we can find mutual bonding over hating the SEC. Like,
Yes.
we don't have to
Yes.
root for Ohio State and want them to do well, but we can still all agree that the SEC is annoying, as Kris covers.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And
Yep,
in that regard,
frenemies.
yeah, in that regard, shout out to Kris. And Kris was great. Like, Kris has good content. And I'll say this, Kris is probably emblematic of a growing trend that I've seen in the offseason, which is a little bit of Ohio State fans going, all right, okay, respect.
Yeah.
We see it.
Yeah.
It's happening. I saw like a pretty viral post about upcoming college football rivalries. Like, what could be the new rivalry? And a number of Buckeye fans going, I think it could be Ohio State, Indiana, if this shakes out in a different way. So I'm glad that we were able to get Kris on and hear from him. So I do want to encourage people to follow him. He's putting out really, really good stuff.
Yeah, he does a lot. So there's a lot to follow, but check out Kris. Okay, let's talk about what's happening right now. We talked about that the SEC and the ACC are doing propaganda conventions in Destin and like all these places. I think the Big Ten probably does it too. But basically, one of the things that have come out from the SEC is their talking points that, one, they're very comfortable, according to them, of breaking away. Like, that is the drum is starting to beat about, hey, we don't need the rest of if you don't do what we want, we're going to break away. Two, I saw a tweet from Brandon Marcello, who does a great job from CBS Sports covering all this, that there is actually now active presentations going on at these conferences about collective bargaining and moving in that direction. And collective bargaining, for those that don't know, is basically the way to fix all of this, which is you make the players employees, you collective bargain rules and regulations that they agree to abide by, and then when that happens, then we can go, right? Tim, I asked Kris this in the interview, but I want your take. Like, what is the next 5 to 10 years? Like, is it accelerating faster than you thought? Or is this, we're still next 3 or 4 years still just having this conversation?
Oh, we're definitely still just having this conversation for 4 years. This is going to be some version of like, ooh, look at this group, this proposal, this, senior media executive had this quote in this interview. This is all leverage. And the reality is that college sports, which, when we say college sports, we're really also talking about college football, is an enormous business. College football draws more eyeballs than the NBA, than Major League Baseball. So like the audience that we have here should understand that that's the reasons why we're talking about this. But it also has this weird dead weight for lack of a better term, of an educational system attached to it that like doesn't exist for minor league baseball. It doesn't exist for minor league basketball leagues. Like, in no other world is this the case, but America loves football so damn much that the minor league system of college football blows out the professional of every other type of sport. So we are dealing with complications that we have multiple stakeholders with different levels of authority and leverage trying to exercise that for their own personal pursuits, or effectively their university's pursuits, maybe sometimes their conference, which the conference provides some collective leverage. Yeah. But even as we've seen within that conference, there's a lot of like, wait a second, we might be kind of on the same team, but I'm the big dog on this team, and you're just a side piece. Rutgers, Maryland, Vanderbilt,
Indiana 2023.
Yeah, Indiana pre-Cignetti. So I do expect that this is really what it comes down to. I think I said it on the last podcast too. It's the early 2030s when all of the TV contracts expire. So right now, these things are all kind of in place because this is how the money flows. but we're all trying to reposition ourselves for the next round of negotiations. And how can we maximize that dollar return? For all parties, right? ESPN is trying to maximize their dollar return in investment. Universities are trying to exercise theirs. Maybe also, in a way, players are also trying to exercise that. There's only one pot of money, and everybody's trying to get every dollar bill out of it.
Well, we've talked about at length that higher education has approached the boom in college athletics, and especially the, hey, you can't exploit free labor anymore, by not cutting expenses and being more efficient in the way that they spend, but instead going, hey, we're going to spend as much and if not more than we did before, and we're going to go get as many TV contracts and get every last dollar that's out of it. The reality is, and the reason why I wanted to have a higher education nerdy talk with you is that we are seeing universities as a whole and the structures of universities change so much, because a lot of times back in the late 2010s, you and I in higher education, as when we worked there, we would hear a lot of discussions about the enrollment cliff and like all these people like no longer going. And while that is true, it's not affected the likes of Indiana, the likes of Ohio State, the likes of Michigan in terms of enrollment in their undergraduate programs, because universities aren't going through an enrollment cliff cycle right now. What they're going through, and I'm talking about big universities, they're going about the great consolidation. Like smaller schools and stuff like that are doing this. And part of that is IU's fault. Part of that is Michigan's fault. Part of that is Ohio State's fault, because they're admitting more people than ever, which means like you are essentially taking resources from all this stuff, and it's run by university presidents who cannot keep a job, whether it's scandal or moving around constantly.
And some context for our listeners that maybe just be more sport fans than higher education fans.
I warned them very much that this would be a boring conversation for them.
But this is the simple thing to know, because it is the underlying thing that is actually really driving this, which is when the Great Recession started, 07, 08, shout out, what a time it was, people stopped having babies in America, like dramatically. And so guess what? That means the number of people graduating high school 18 years later, if you're doing the math in your head, that's kind of now, starts being a lot less. And so the difference is basically since the advent of the GI Bill in the 60s, higher education enrollment and even just the pure size of the market, the number of 18-year-olds that wanted potentially a college degree was always going up. And so every university never had to deal with effectively cost control. They only were just trying to grab the ever-growing size of the pie. And now higher education as a whole is going, there are fewer and fewer customers for us. Now what do we do? Do we cut back? Do we scale back? Do we right size, etc.? Do we see, very likely, as you said, many sort of smaller regional schools, whatever else, get literally absorbed or cease to exist in some ways because there just aren't students for them? I would imagine that's likely what happens, that we see students flock to big brand names, schools like Indiana, whatever else, big state schools, premier schools, like, there's still Ivy League and whatever else, or very low cost, community colleges or whatever else. Your DePaul's with a W in Greencastle, Indiana, Wabash College, for those folks around Indiana, Franklin College, those types of places, it's going to get real tough real quick.
But that just means threat.
That just means the economics of the education industry are changing, which then has the ripple effect all the way up. So like, what does Indiana do? How does Illinois tackle enrollment? And then guess what? You know what is a great advertiser of your university to come for an increasingly competitive education market? Sports and football, because people watch football. So we have now diverging ways that people invest into sports and college athletics from the education side, because they view it as the way that they can get the attention of an increasingly competitive student market going forward. And then you roll into that the people who are in charge have been faculty members, and they have great expertise. They have PhDs in a very distinct field, but that does not mean that they are the best folks always to be running a university or to operate it like a business or to operate a business that is on a decline or needs to totally repivot its market and who it's going after or the new products it's trying to sell or whatever else. They've only ever had one environment, which was, oh, there's just more and more customers. So we can just grow and ride the wave up. Things are crashing down. And so the ripple effect of that all the way down is, how do we invest in football as effectively an advertising mechanism for the university? What is the appropriate amount to invest into it? And then also, how do we recoup that value of that investment as best as we possibly can? The TV contracts, the scheduling, the disbursements, like all of this really becomes about it. But the real seed of that is the changing industry of education, not just sports and media.
And the reality is that university presidents are so short tenured right now. Like, they're leaving at an alarming clip. Michigan State just lost their president today, took shots at the board of trustees as he goes out the board. He started in 2024.
Yeah, Michigan State's been cycling through presidents of late.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah, taking shots. Indiana, obviously, President Whitten, there's some strong opinions about her and all that stuff. But President Whitten has a direct correlation to Indiana football success.
Easy.
Michael McRobbie would have never, ever. He didn't. Like, he was actually a roadblock. Michael McRobbie, for the sake of our sports fans, was a terrible president for Indiana to have. Like, you can think what you want about his growth and like his support of Indiana from an academic point of view, but he didn't like sports, and he basically was just like, don't bother me with it. Whitten comes in, says, we're not going to treat football like a club sport anymore. Brings, honestly, an SEC mentality from her time at Georgia. She completely changes it. Whitten's been there a lot longer than most university presidents. Michigan can't keep a president. Unfortunately, their Syracuse president that they had just got diagnosed with cancer. He was coming in and he's gone. Wisconsin just lost their president. Florida had lost their president. They hired Michigan's president away and then canceled the search because of political reasons. And then like all this type of stuff. The people that are supposed to be making the decisions about where we are going is a constant churn of
Constantly.
leaders. Like,
and for the most part, these presidents too also serve at the pleasure of a board of trustees type organization, which for many of these schools, being publicly funded entities from their state governments, now are the focus of geopolitical issues. And so we experienced it in Indiana. There were changes in the board of trustees and how many seats got appointed by the governor, et cetera. There's new people in new positions. So like you're hiding under a rock if you don't believe that all these things are at play here. So then you get to a point where the Big Ten as a conference has 18 schools, which means 18 boards of trustees, 18 presidents that even at the school level may not be in sync in terms of what they want or what they think is right. You may have athletic directors who have less power now, but like have some sway and whatever else and can put out quotes to the media or whatever. And so like even Tony Petitti in the Big Ten, you're talking about legitimately 100 people to try to get on board with a direction that they want to go. And then we're talking about 4 or 5 major other conferences also with 100. You're talking legitimately about trying to get 1,000 people to agree on what we should do. So of course, this is where we're at, where it is a terrible system because we have that many people with some skin in the game and some leverage to try to move things.
Then we have a current presidential administration and Congress people who think that this is going to be like introducing these bills. Never going to work. They're never going to work. Like it's insane to me because if there's one thing more dysfunctional than university presidents trying to decide what to do, it's Congress.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that was Woo!
Yeah, it's wild. So that's why Tim and I wanted to dive deep, the nerds that stuck around for that conversation, because it is important to understand that it is, while Tim and I agree that there is a simple solution to this. You make them employees and you collectively bargain. there's a simple solution that has a really complicated way of getting to that simple solution because of the number of stakeholders that are involved. You've got the regressive people that are still like, we shouldn't be paying the players. It's like, you're still having this conversation now in this day and age in the year of our Lord 2026, right? Like it is
and you're upset that they're getting paid too much? Buddy, did you just hear what I said? That college football draws more eyeballs than the NBA finals? Like, I should you know, unfortunately I'm gonna take a step back.
You're flipping your hat around. You're getting very serious.
I need this to get clipped. As the world's #1 Dante Moore hater, Dante Moore deserves to be paid more than LeBron James. Flat out. Dante Moore brings in more eyeballs to a sport, which drives more advertising than LeBron James. Today in 2026. Maybe not 5 or 10 years ago, but today, that's absolutely the case. So stop complaining about how much Dante Moore gets paid or how much do we pay for Nick Marsh or, oh my God, these guys are trying to drive up the price. Buddy, that's their market value. You keep watching them. If you don't like what they get paid, stop watching them.
I was trying to decide how I should like brace myself during that because obviously I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm going to let that get clipped and you are getting into the bronze stance, right? Like you are, Tim is wading into some waters there with it. Well, guys, it's ever changing. I do suggest Football Weather. We talked about it in the last podcast. They do some deep dives on the contract stuff. Galen Clavio and Matt Bazelak, like they have a very good. I mean, they themselves are faculty members who do some research on all this stuff, and so it is interesting to hear their perspective on that. So I encourage you to go check that out. But for us, it's in higher education. Tim's industry, my old industry, like it is going through some changes and it will be interesting to see what the next 5 to 10 years looks like. I am one that does not think higher education is going away. That the is an institution in America, and America would have to go away for that institution to go away. Because there's a reality is there's rite of passage that is viewed in higher education still amongst at least the wealthy class, that like you send your kid to college. Like that is still a thing. And while that might change and that might weaken over time, there is something in the American popular culture that still drives, regardless of your degree, going to a university, a brick and mortar university, sitting there at between 18 and 22 years old, ordering pizza, staying up late with your friends, like that educational value of that life outside of that. It's hard for me to see that going away. It's not impossible to be torn down, but it's not doom and gloom.
It's going to change.
Education. It is going to change. It is going to change. Well, you can follow Kirkwood and Dunn on all platforms at Kirkwood and Dunn. You can follow Tim at TB Hoosiers on X. You can follow me at ST McGee on X. Tim would like to remind you to go vote for him in the Instagram and X poll so that he actually will get a win under his belt because he is a loser
what's right.
And he might have been in most drafts and not voted off like me, but he still hasn't won. So that's the key here. So for Tim, I'm Trent. Thanks for sticking around for this long podcast. Comment below. We'd love to hear from you. We'll see you next time.